What do you desire? What would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life?
So you run your own business, Pure Connections, and you hold a lot of like breathwork sessions, meditations, sister circles, one-on-one coaching, retreats, ice baths and stuff.
You've
Can you
done your
just tell me
research?
about? Yeah, yeah. Can you just tell me about like where this all started and like why?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, where it all began was like the breath work. And before that, I was like in a period of my time where I was like, I know there's something I want to do and create and become. I just have no idea what that looks like. And I loved and forever have all the mindfulness stuff. I've loved meditation. I'm obsessed with my little essential oils, and I've always been in that kind of space. And I just didn't know what it was going to be that I was going to create. And then COVID period happened, and this is where my kind of journey started. And it was when we were told to get all these vaccinations, and I was the last person, me and my partner were the last people that I literally knew to get it, because we were so like, we knew it wasn't for us. I didn't want it. I just didn't feel good about getting it. Long story short, I got it. And then a few weeks, months later, I developed, well, actually had pericarditis after the first one. But in my head, I was like, I was getting symptoms, but I was like, no, this can't be happening to me, because like I was the last person to get it. I knew I didn't want it, but then like, how can it happen to me? So I just was naive and was like, no, it's not real. It's not me. I'm just thinking it. I'm overthinking it. Anyway, I left it for a couple of months. I was still going out, partying, doing all this stuff. And then it got to a point where I started having panic attacks. And I was someone that never in my life have I experienced anxiety. I had friends that experienced it. I was always there for people who had it, but I never really understood it. Like I didn't, unless you know what it feels like, you just don't know. So I was having panic attacks that were going for an hour long. Now, if you've had panic attacks, or for anyone listening who's had a panic attack, you know that if you're having a panic attack that's going for an hour, that is fucked. Like, so, and I had multiple of these, and it only took me for like the third one to go, okay, Sophie, this is not right. You're not an anxious person. You don't get panic attacks. What's going on? So, I think it's a really, like, it was a big thing for me to, well, the realization I had was, if you don't listen to your body's going to find a way to listen, make you listen. So my body's way of telling me that something's not right was through panic attacks. And that was the only way my body was going to listen and go, so you need to go get help. So I went to the doctors, they put me straight to hospital. I was diagnosed with pericarditis, and it became chronic at that point. So because I left it for like 2, 3 months before getting diagnosed, my symptoms were chronic. And then I was on medication for 4, 5 months. And it got to the point where I couldn't drink coffee. I know that's like such a minor factor, but like it started by, all right, I can't drink coffee because this is going to spike my anxiety. I literally couldn't get off the couch for a while, for months, because I was so depleted. I felt like I had like a permanent truck sitting on my chest. I had, and the pericarditis symptoms were like immediate, like really fast paced heart, and nothing would stop it. So like that was actually the condition, was just the your heart rate going like this. So for a long time, I was just put in flight or fight, and I didn't know all this, by the way. Like I figured this out later, and so I went to hospital twice because these panic attacks were just so severe. And then I got to a point where I'm like, all right, this is really fucked. Like I feel like if I'm here and depression is here. And I knew and I felt into the feeling of when people are in that moment of their life where, like, if they don't do something about what they're going through, they're going to go like proper downhill. So I was doing all the things, I got back into the meditation, all the things you stop doing when you feel good. And then you realize, all right, no, I need to do them because I don't feel good. And I was literally, I barely wore shoes in that period of time because I was like, no, grounding, the earth is going to heal me. I would eat breakfast, lunch, and not dinner, but breakfast and lunch on the grass. I couldn't work. I didn't work for 2, 3 months, so I wasn't getting paid, wasn't getting money. And I just used that time to really connect back to myself. And then fast forward a few months later, I went to my first breathwork session on the beach with the monkey movement. And I didn't know anything about breathwork. I didn't know anything about what I was doing on the beach. I just got told by a friend to come. And that was my first ever breathwork experience. And that was a moment where I was like just coming out of being in that hole. And I was like, what did I just experience? What was that? And it was like a moment of, I feel like I'm me again. Like I had a glimpse of Sophie is still in there when Sophie felt like she was not coming back, kind of thing. And I was like, I need everyone to experience what I just experienced. Like my whole community, I need my family, friends. I need this to be a part of everyone's life, breathwork. Fast forward a few months later, I applied for a breathwork facilitated training course. I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, oh, that would be really cool. And they didn't get back to me for like 3-4 weeks later, so I kind of forgot about it. Long story short, it was a huge application process of like 400 applicants. 30 people got picked. It was an interview process. Got picked, and then that was when I was like, okay, the whole thing of me wanting to create something and have a business in the mindfulness space, it is going to be breathwork, and that is the core of my business. And then everything else comes from that. So that was a long of rambles, but that's
No, that's
where
good.
that was the beginning, and that was the process of like me becoming a breathwork facilitator.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so I just want to go back. What was it that you said that you had? I didn't quite hear it. It was a long word.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, it was pericarditis. So it was like
Pericarditis.
a condition that could be caused from the vaccine, from the
Yeah.
specific one I got. So it's like a swelling around the muscles of the heart. So
Hmm.
it's not a lifelong condition. It just, and if I got onto it earlier, it would have been fine. It just became chronic. So my symptoms were a lot harsher and went for a long period of time.
Yeah, right. Wow. It's crazy to think like you hear about it on the news and like or like online or social media
Mm,
and stuff from the vaccine or um but to actually speak to someone who's experienced something like
mm.
this, it's wild. And it's awesome that you've been able to sort of turn this all around and you have completely no symptoms anymore of that. It's like completely gone now.
It's funny because like this part of my heart, we carry, like our muscles carry a muscle memory, and every now and then I get a pain, like a shooting pain here, and I know it's just like not anything serious. It's just that muscle memory coming back. And sometimes when that muscle carries that memory, it's like signaling to my body, or it's if my body's like in a state of stress or overwhelm or anything, this can come back because it's like my body's way of knowing that that's the way I'm going to listen to it
Mm.
sometimes. So that I do carry around. And I think sometimes when I was away in Central America a few months ago, I was climbing a mountain for a few days, and I noticed my ability to climb this mountain was a lot different to previous times that I've been climbing mountains and traveling and doing that. And I wondered if, okay, is this some sort of like effect from what I experienced with the pericarditis?
Yeah.
I won't know, but it felt like climbing this mountain didn't feel as easy as what it usually does in terms of like being able to breathe properly and like do all that stuff. But I know that I am fine now, um, and it's not like a thing that can hurt you in the long term future. I hope, but
Mm, mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
hopefully.
good now. It just took us. It took probably a good year to really recover from.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Well, I'm glad it's going well now. What's it like doing the breathwork course? Like, like I don't understand what that would be like. How long is it? What do you kind of do? What do they
Hmm.
teach you and tell you about?
Yeah. So my breathwork course went for 3 months. It was a breathwork and meditation facilitator training, and it was just a course that I could recommend any human being to do. And at the end of the day, if you wanted to walk out of it and be a facilitator, perfect. And that's what I wanted to do. But the journey of like where I was at the start of the course to where I am at the end of the course, I'm a different person. Like we went through so much, like learning about who we are, why we are who we are, learning about the brain, learning about parts of the body, learning the science behind breath work and why we do it, and then healing relationships, healing past selves, healing wounds that we didn't even know we were carrying. So
Mm.
I think the beautiful thing about breathwork is there's a whole breathwork's like a yoga umbrella. You've got yoga, you've got breathwork, and then you've got a million different ways you can do that practice. And the ways that we did that practice in my course was very much transformational breathwork and really healing all that no longer serves us in our bodies, and really stepping into a person that can hold space for millions of people in breathwork. So we did go to the trenches, but it's not
Mm.
necessary to do that to everyone either. But to be a practitioner, that's what we did. So it was a life-changing course, and I learned so much about myself, and um, yeah, really faced places within me that I didn't know I needed to face, but the beauty is in that. So yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the things or most memorable things that you learned about yourself?
Mm. Hmm. I think what comes up, and not specifically about me either, was just that, like, what we don't process, we carry. And I was carrying things that I didn't even know I was carrying. Like, you know, grief. I had lost a few people in my life, and my way of dealing with that in the past was, it maybe took me a week, and I felt like I may have been normal again. And no,
Mm.
Sophie, like, that's not how it works. Like, whatever you don't deal with and process, it's in your body. And so the first few weeks of doing the breathwork course, I did some breath work, like long hour breathes. And I was like faced with the things that I was like, oh my God, how did I not know that was still in my body? So, like, that was a big learning of mine in the course, was like that. And as well, just to like really, really trust the process of everything.
Mm.
Trust whatever season you're in at the moment is exactly the season you're meant to be in, whether it feels good or not. Like, every moment in time has a lesson and a challenge, and what, yeah, no, every moment in life, if it's a challenging one, what lesson can you find in that? And I think throughout the course, there was times where it was really challenging, but reminding myself to trust the process, and you will be where you're meant to be all through that.
Yeah. It's funny, like I feel like so much of our happiness is, it seems so complicated and um difficult, but I feel like a lot of the solutions are very simple.
Mm,
And I always kind of run into this thing where there's like a problem or something's happening, or someone's telling me something's happening, and the solution is very simple. It's like, just like listen to yourself, like observe yourself, like create a good relationship with yourself, trust, and like you say, trust. It's a very simple thing, but
mm,
to actually do the trusting and trust the
mm,
process when the times are shit or down
mm,
or difficult, it's like so hard.
mhm.
So how do you find you, I guess, like do these things that are
Mm.
simple but difficult, like trusting? Um, yeah, like how do you actually handle that? Like, how do you do it? What's your approach?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, and something that this course did teach me. And prior to the course, in challenging times, my coping mechanism was to, it was so easy for me to forget, or to not really feel into it, and to not feel was so easy for me. So my challenging times never felt so challenging, because I was so good at distracting myself and moving on.
Mm.
And now this course, I realized what really helps you in those challenging times is having a regulated nervous system, having a nervous system that you're always in a state of rest and digest. So your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what gets you through these challenging times, is having that regulation where, say, if we're not regulated, and in the past I wasn't, and most of us aren't. And what that can look like in a challenging time is we get overwhelmed, we get stressed, we don't see the little simplicity of trust. It's like everything's too much, everything's too hard. And we go to other coping mechanisms, whether that be alcohol, drugs, and whatever that is for that person. So having a dysregulated nervous system is so individual for that person to know like what it is their way of dealing with it is. But
Mm.
having a regulated nervous system, which I feel like I do now, and doing all the practices like breathwork, meditation, cold therapy every day keeps me in a regulated state. When I do go through hardship, and like the last few months, I won't lie, have been some of the hardest. And we've just had a family member go through some serious stuff, and the ripple effect on everyone else in the family has been dramatically tough. And what I've noticed in those times is like, okay, now I can, with a regulated nervous system, I can hold myself through my pain. I will let myself cry. I will ask for help. I will keep doing the things through that time that make my body feel good, going for a walk, still doing my breath work every day. So I think it really takes learning about your body and learning about how to hold yourself through that, which is what makes the trust feel so simple. And it doesn't
Mm.
happen overnight. Like I've been doing this work for like a solid year and a half now. So I know how to do that work now, but in the past it wasn't easy and I didn't know how. But it does take over time and it does become part of your life and who you are, which then life doesn't get easier, you just get better at it. And I feel like
Mm.
now I'm at a point where I am getting better at doing all the hard things and experiencing the polarity of life.
Yeah, nice. I like that actually. Life doesn't get easier; you get better at it. That's
Yeah.
good. I I we mentioned before about like your nervous system and uh there's a couple things. So like how do you think you could tell someone or bring like awareness to someone to a point where they can actually feel and notice their own nervous system? Because I can imagine that a lot of
Mm,
people they'll hear this or they'll see like your nervous system needs to be relaxed or something, but they are so like disconnected or not in tuned with it that it's almost like non-existent to realize.
mm,
I mean, when I think about it, I think about like, okay, well, you need to start developing habits and like intentional time to practice that. But
mhm,
what about people that aren't at that stage yet? Like, what
mm.
would you tell someone like at that point?
I think the first thing like I noticed for people like if your nervous system is in a flight or fight, your body language is going to be so different compared to someone that's not. So someone that's like in a fight or fight, they're always like, they're fidgeting, they like can't sit still, they're always moving their legs, they're always fidgeting with something. Like that's a real big sign that all right, their bodies are not calm whatsoever. Um, the way they speak as well, their language, like I think as well, and I don't have like too much of a leg to stand on with nervous system stuff, and I don't want to preach it in a way that like I I'm an expert in it, but I know what I know through breathwork as well. But I think for someone that's like, say, really stressed, has a really high job, like fast paced job, and they want to know how to regulate their nervous systems, I think number one is like start by creating the time in your day for you, whether that be as soon as you wake up, maybe it's 1 minute. And for someone that's in a real high stress job and in a fight or fight state, 1 minute might even seem overwhelming, or 10 minutes to
Mm.
be more realistic. So let's go 1 minute. 1 minute in the day to check in with yourself, do some breath work, do some meditation, and do a breath work that's more down regulating. Um, not like what you see on Instagram, like people going like no, it doesn't have to be that way. And for someone that's in that fight or fight, that's just going to put them in that state even more dense. So start by nasal breathing. Wake up and do some nasal breathing, in and out through the nose, in and out through the nose, and just get comfortable with not doing anything for at least a minute. So get
Mm.
comfortable with just sitting still in your own presence. And I like to say as well, like, again, if a minute's too overwhelming, do 10 seconds. Start with what feels comfortable for you and then build your capacity up. That's how I did it. It doesn't have to be doing this whole morning routine that you're not going to do that's too overwhelming for you. Like, start at the very basic. Again, it doesn't have to be hard. Do what feels good for you.
Mm.
And then slowly you can build the trust and the safety in your body to then maybe do the cold showers, maybe do deeper breath works, do longer meditations, which will gradually over time put you in a regulated state.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the like you said, taking that time for yourself and spending that time intentionally. So much of our day is just like things we need to do, things we have obligations to be doing, um, just like outsourcing and trying to message people or talk to someone or be on social media. And it's so fast paced. And
Mm.
excuse me. Um, and I think, yeah, that intentional time is so important. And yeah, I like when you start, like when I remember when I started with my meditations, I was doing like 10-minute meditations and it felt like forever.
Mm.
I swear to God, it felt for so long. And I'm sitting there like thinking, like, how long is this?
Mm.
Or
Yeah.
I've gone off into some daydream and it's just like, I wake up like, what the hell just happened? Like,
Yeah.
now how long left? Like, but then you slowly build up and over time it becomes easier and easier and you can like relax more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed with my muscles in my body, I'd be like sitting somewhere or like in a conversation with someone, and I could feel like my legs or like my hip or some part of my body just tense for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you realize that and you like relax, it's like, oh, so
Mm.
good. So it's just like that incremental kind of like build up, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think as well, so many people think, oh, I don't do meditation. It's not for me, because they think you have to lay there for 15 minutes with music in your ears and lay there and do nothing and not think. Like, no, that is not what it has to be. And meditation is for everyone, like whether you believe it or not. Just start by, and again, like for you, if that 10 minutes at the start was like, fuck, this feels like forever. And the minute you start neglecting the practice, well, no, you don't need to neglect the practice. Just decrease the time, do 2 minutes. And then that's like, oh, I've done 2 minutes of meditation today. I feel really good about that. Not, I did 10 minutes and now I feel like shit. I feel frustrated. I feel like my brain is even more like racy. Like, start, start small.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also like it's not even like a thing, like when you say meditation is like a thing people can do and not, it's really just a practice of being present now, which is
Mm-hmm.
how we technically are made to be living, I guess, right? Like just
It's a
thinking about
lifestyle.
being alive now. And yeah, I wonder sometimes what's going on for people when they say it's not for me, I don't want to do it, or they're really resistant to it. And it's just really fascinating because I wonder why. Why
Mm.
are you so resistant to meditating? But um yeah, you mentioned before you did like an hour breathe or something, something along those lines,
Mm-hmm.
and that made me curious about the types of breath work and
Mm.
the categories of it, because obviously I know like a couple like fast ones like
Mm-hmm.
in and out, like Wim Hof, and then now I'm curious, like are there sessions where you sit there for like hours just going really
Mm.
deep into it, or
Yeah, and this is where, like, again, breath work is the umbrella, and there's a million different ways we can do
mm,
that and incorporate into our lives. And there's ones where we can do every morning for regulation, for amping us up, for decreasing anxiety, for focusing the body, for getting clarity. There's a million things. And then there's like hour-long breath works, and they don't all have to be an hour, but it's a specific way you're breathing, which accesses the subconscious mind, which accesses the nervous system, which has our entire life's database. Whatever we see, think, feel, touch, eat, it is in that database of our subconscious mind. And what breath work and this specific style of breath work that we can do can access that. And we can feel into and remove any emotions, traumas, like anything that doesn't serve us. We can access that and move it through the body,
mm,
release it from the body. And our bodies are so like intelligent, and what people don't realize is that every single thing we experience in life, if we go through frustration, anxiety, overwhelm, and we don't do anything with that emotion, we distract ourselves, your body's going to hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it, and that memory is still in your body. So breathwork allows us to go back there and release it.
yeah, trauma and healing and excuse me. um it's such a interesting thing. Like I feel like it's almost you start and it starts off really good, and you're like, whoa, this is like awesome, this is really good. And then it sort of goes on this path of up and down over time.
Mm-hmm.
And like you then, I actually read something just on your page recently, which was about enjoying all of the emotions that you feel and understanding them and finding like the goodness in all of them. So,
Mm.
and that makes me think of what sort of what I'm touching on, which is like as you go on this journey, I guess, or path of healing yourself and getting to know yourself and making a strong relationship with yourself and life and changing your outlook on the world, you realize like it's just always going to be up and down, and it depends on
Mm.
how you approach it and look at it. And
Exactly.
I think it's important to be like, when you're in these times of in the pit, at the bottom, in the trenches, whatever you want to say, it's like to find the good part of that is that you could at least be thinking like, oh my god, I'm actually able to at least experience this thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm upset or sad or frustrated or angry or whatever it is, and then when I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, but I can actually feel this thing. It's the same with like
Mm.
cold water. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, it's not nice, but when you think about it more, you're like,
Mm.
I can actually feel something. Imagine not being able to
Yeah.
feel anything,
Exactly.
and I feel like this whole way to approach like looking at the world and like the universe is like, if you think of things on such a massive scale where it's like you can have absolutely no experience, like you're gone, you're dead, there's nothing here, versus any kind of experience that we can have now in our lives with our bodies, it's like,
Exactly.
oh, what a blessing. you know
100%. We get to have it all. We get to experience it all. And we so easily welcome in love, joy, excitement, happiness, but we so easily neglect hate, frustration, overwhelm, anxiety. And I like to think of like, if those emotions of like the feelings that don't feel good, the anxiety, the stress, if they were children or if they were you and you were pushing them away, going, I don't like you, you're not welcome here, I hate this feeling, like you don't belong, how would you feel being told that? How would that child be told feel being told that? Like it's the same way for our emotions. If they're not welcome in our body, they're not going to feel safe in our body, and we're not going to feel safe to experience them. Therefore, putting us in a really unsafe way in our body. Like we're not going to feel good.
mm,
But if we can welcome in all of that and thank our bodies for experiencing the love and the hate and whatever the polarity, then life gets to be a little bit easier and experiencing those feelings gets to be a little bit easier. Even though
mm,
in the time they feel real rough, but having that perception of you can come in, you're welcome, this too shall pass, no emotion is going to last forever. And we
mm,
cannot experience the darkness without the light, or vice versa. Like it's just not the way humans are programmed. Like I think it's
yeah.
important to remember that as well.
what's your what's your favorite type of breath work to do, or like what's your personal routine that you have?
Yeah. I think for an everyday breath work, um, and if someone's listening and they're like, I want to know more, my Instagram has a little breath highlight which has a few of like morning routine breath work practices. But sometimes, depending on the mood I'm in, like this morning, I just did a bit of a heart coherence breath, which is literally I didn't feel like amping up my like heart rates or like just feeling energized. I just felt like being calm. So I did like literally in for five, out for five, in through the nose and out through the nose for like 20 rounds. And that put me in a really nice calm state. Sometimes if I've got like a big day ahead or I'm tired or I just want to have energy, I like to do the 777 breath, which is like that breath, 7 rounds, sorry, 3 rounds, 7 breaths in each, and then you hold at the end.
Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, you. If you've made it this far, I just want to say a huge thank you. You have no idea how much it means to me, and I would love to express the immense amount of gratitude that I have for you. If you're enjoying the content so far, your support can truly help the podcast flourish. By simply subscribing, following, and liking and sharing, you're ensuring that our valuable content connects with the right audience, and it helps allow me to bring even more awesome content to you. Thanks again, and I really do hope you enjoy the rest of the episode and many more to come. So, yeah, we had a technical difficulty, and now, yeah.
Um, Yeah, so my favorite morning breath is either the 777 breath or even just like 30 breaths in the mouth, out the mouth, and then like a hold and then repeat that. And that just literally changes your state instantly. And I feel like doing that at the start of the day and incorporating that into my routine, which also my routine usually is wake up, and I really try not to look at my phone at all. Sometimes I do get in the trap of like, oh, what's that? Messages, whatever. But breath work, writing down or saying aloud what 3 things I'm grateful for are. Usually my meditation is like just sitting in some stillness, in some silence after my breath work. So like 5 minutes of just like nothing. That's my meditation. And then cold shower. That is the way to go. Win the morning, win the day. And that is the greatest morning routine. And I just put a little morning routine out actually on my Instagram. And at the end of all that, you must, and I sometimes must, I say this to myself, chuck on your favorite song and have a dance. Like
Nice.
you have to. Like it's the best.
Yeah. I think the cold shower stuff is so good.
Mm,
I've I went through like a massive phase of doing it, and it's like I was like, oh yeah, like this is awesome. Like I'm doing this every day, and then like, winter comes around, and then you're like, oh maybe not.
mm-hmm,
But I've been doing it again recently now, and like it's just the way I don't really know how to explain it or like describe how good it is.
mm-hmm.
Like it's like you think you're gonna be so cold, and then you get out of the cold shower, and you're actually like warm
You're warm.
because it
Yeah.
was so cold,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you're just like buzzing.
And
It's so
that's a
nice.
way to regulate the nervous system. When our bodies are doing that, our bodies are regulating internally our nervous system. So, and I think as well, like that for some people will be the hardest thing they will do all day. And if you can hack the hardest thing you've done all day in the morning, everything else for your day is going to be such a breeze.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love that like mentality of just getting like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations or making yourself feel uncomfortable in these like difficult
Mm-hmm.
tasks or difficult things, and like using that as like a benchmark of
Mm-hmm.
overcoming your difficulty throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like if you don't, then some like small stuff can just really get to you and bother you, and
100%.
it's just like and it feels like it's the whole world
Mm-hmm.
is like being so difficult, but it's really just like a practice and a bit of like a courage thing as well, which is
Exactly.
yeah, it's awesome. um I also had a question about whether or not you feel imposter syndrome when you hold these events and
Mm-hmm.
retreats and classes, because I think that
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely be feeling that. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you?
You know what's so funny? I literally was listening to a podcast this morning on the way home from my partner's house, and I was literally talking in my brain about imposter syndrome, and I'm like, why are you so present right now? Like in this moment right now. And like of course, we're human. We're all going to experience all these feelings, and I think if you're not experiencing it, then maybe you're just a fucking superhuman, but we're all human and we all go through it. And yeah, I definitely do. It's just like in those moments reminding yourself why you do what you do, and then
Mm,
thinking about like 'cause sometimes I think of the bigger picture and then I forget about the people in my like circle of my business that really are always like telling me how good it is I'm doing, how what work I'm doing is great. And like even even at a festival I was just at the other weekend, I got recognized as who I am by a stranger, and they came up to me and was like, oh my god, you've helped me so much, like my blah blah
mm,
blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, that's why I do what I do. Like it's the
yeah.
little things that remind you of who you are and that you aren't this small little person that doesn't know what they're talking about. And like, yeah, reminding yourself of that. And of course, I get imposter syndrome. Yeah, for sure.
What are the kinds of thoughts that like you experience when you are dealing with that imposter syndrome? Like what's going on in your mind, and what's your self-talk, and like
Yeah,
what's all the stuff that makes it really difficult?
I think it changes as well. And I think sometimes it's like, why do people want to listen to me? Or like, what have I got to say? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think that's just a really natural thought that we do think. Because like, who am I? Like, I experience all this shit too. But I think
Mm,
that also keeps us relatable to everyone that we're talking to and preaching to. I think as well, like I think sometimes my dog
That's
is
okay.
just like trying to make it so comfortable. I think as well, I sometimes forget what I know, and what I know is so um important for the world to know at this period of, the life we live in our world. And sometimes I just forget that, and coming back to, and like last week I did a podcast, and doing this podcast as well, just it reminds me of what I know. And it's really good to have these conversations with people to remind us of our power and who we are and why we're here.
Mm. What when you're going through teaching people, um, and we'll touch on the exact stuff you're teaching, because I know you do like the one-on-one coaching and the sister circles and retreats and stuff. So we'll go into that in a second. But like, do you ever find yourself teaching stuff that you're actually struggling a lot with yourself?
Mm. I think this was a big thing we learnt in our course, and I don't like to use the umbrella healers because so many people do, and I'm not a healer. I don't heal, but I guide people to heal themselves. But in this world, so many people are teaching and preaching what they need for themselves and what they're struggling with. And I'm definitely a realist, and I will share what I am struggling with, but I'm not necessarily doing or I like to keep it up to like the individual. And with the one-on-one and coaching and stuff, people are coming to me with their stuff, but I'm not then going to like
Mm.
pass on what I'm dealing with and help them through, or help me at the same time, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I understand. But I guess I'm sort of trying to ask, like, let's say you have like in your current life, you're dealing with a lot of I don't even know. I'm just gonna say like anxiety or social anxiety or something,
Hmm.
and you are teaching someone how to handle and deal with social anxiety, not through yourself, but you're just telling and teaching them about the same thing. Where and at the same time, though, you're actually struggling with social anxiety yourself.
Mm.
So, do you feel like you are at all dealing with certain things with yourself that are challenging, but you're actually at the same time giving like advice
Mm.
on?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, like definitely, because in the last couple of months, like as I mentioned before, experiencing a lot of pain and sadness with stuff going on in the family. Yet I'm also helping someone that's got some really, they're going through adversity and hardship themselves too. And I think that's where I'm like, I switch on work Sophie, and then I switch on personal
Yeah.
Sophie, and I can really break that. So I don't want to bring my pain or anything into what I'm teaching or helping with someone else. But yeah, I can relate to you, and yeah, I can share that I am experiencing this, and this is what I did to get through that. And like, let's try that for you and see if that works. And if it doesn't, we can try something else. But definitely, I think it's funny how that does happen though. Like you're
Mm.
teaching someone, but you're also experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Because I find like sometimes I think about, even if I'm telling someone something or talking about meditation or um, like dealing with certain types of emotions or situations, and then at the same time, like I can go home and then be dealing with the exact same thing, and it's
Yeah.
like it's still tough. It's very difficult. And I mean, I'm no coach by any means, but like you said, I think we all have this amazing innate ability to offer so much and have so much value and do really great things, and like use our minds and creative minds and positive uh, energy with people. And it's not that anyone really needs to even be like a teacher. It's just that they need to be able to be in tune with that part of themselves and be able and willing to share it and
Mm.
be open. And yeah, like what's been one of the most difficult things for you to share, like about yourself on like your social medias or with other
Mm.
people? And maybe is there something that was uh, started off being very difficult, but now it's like a strength? Or hmm,
Mm. Um, I think for me, growing up, I was someone that really was consumed by caring what others thought of me. Really, like, judgment was just in the forefront of my mind all the time with everything I did. What if that person doesn't like it? What are they going to say? What if I don't fit in? What if it gets received the wrong way? This, that. What if I look weird? And that stopped me from being who I truly am. And I think in the and starting this Instagram page, weirdly enough, I felt like it was kind of my, not escape, but I had no, well, I had to push through the barrier of that. And I think it became my page where I could be anyone and I could be who I really was. So I think the thing that I did struggle with the most and have definitely overcome that was the judgment. And that was something that I was really, really scared of. And I guess it stopped me for so long of being in my power and in my truth. And until I had to use my page and my face as well, like with my page, if I didn't have a face on there, it's like, well, who is she? So I think really incorporating me and who I am and my face and doing things that might look unusual, like, and forgetting about the judgment. But again, like, we're human and that thought does still come up for me, but I just don't let it become me or let it stop me from posting anything or doing anything or saying this or saying that.
Yeah. I think it's such a real thing. I feel even just starting the podcast, it's like for so long I'm thinking, okay, I'm starting this, I'm doing it, and then as soon as I got to like, okay, I'm gonna post, it's like all of these things in my mind were like, what about this person? And I'm like, I haven't even thought or seen that person for like literally 5 years, maybe longer, and I'm worried about what they're gonna think. Like, it's your mind goes to all these crazy areas, and it's kind of funny because then once you start going, it's like now for me, like posting something on the podcast or on like Instagram is just like in like almost nothing anymore. And then I think like, oh my god, all that stress and like worry I had before, like so not like unnecessary. And like, did you ever face any doubt from people but that are close to you?
Yeah, it's funny because, and with everything, and we all know this, that whenever you grow and whenever you step into this new version of you or grow in the world, you will know who really has your back and you know who hypes you up and you know who supports your happiness and supports your dreams and whatever. And there's definitely people that I never got that like full body, like, fuck yeah, you go, so like so proud of you. And I understand, and on reflection, it's like, if they haven't felt that for themselves or maybe haven't experienced that for themselves, then I guess that can be hard for you to be in that energy for someone else if you haven't been there for yourself. And that's okay. And I don't need that from people. But then I do have like my people that I know will always have and support me and give me their 100% energy in whatever I do. And of course, you do move away from people that aren't giving that to you because they're not really serving your highest purpose or so.
And what do you think, or what would you say is the most um important thing to do to try to feel into that energy for yourself and like that goodness for yourself in order to then be able to provide that for other people? Like, what's if someone had to do like one thing to build a better relationship with themselves, what do you reckon?
Ooh, that's a very broad one. If someone, all right, say that question again for me, please.
If someone had to build a better relationship with themselves, or if someone was going to build a better relationship with themselves, what's the most important thing they should be doing?
I think it starts, and it never really ends, to be honest, but I think it starts with becoming self-aware. If you're not self-aware, how the hell can you really have a true connection with yourself? You can't understand where you slip up, where you make mistakes, where you're really proud. Like, if you don't have that self-awareness, then it's almost really hard for you to have that deep connection to yourself. So I think becoming aware and being open to the shit that you do wrong or the shit that doesn't feel right or your mistakes, and then be open to making change to become
Yeah, I think that's
the best version of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a massive one, which is being open and willing to see all the things that you are not doing well.
Yeah.
And I've posted about this before and spoke about it with a couple other people. It's like if you can't look at yourself and like almost like draw a picture of your current person on the to a paper and then like write down all these things that you do really well or like really poorly or might have a negative impact, you got to be able to like do that and then be able to like circle the things almost that you
Mm-hmm.
can work on or areas of improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, because then that means you're like not perfect and you have to tell yourself and admit to yourself that you're like not perfect. But like that's the whole thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think like if you think you are perfect and if you're here in this world to think you're perfect, then fucking good luck to you because you're never gonna have that deep connection to yourself because that's just not real and that's just not who we are as humans. We can't be perfect and we aren't.
What's been some of the biggest I mean, maybe this is a perfect little segue because I was going to ask what's been some of the biggest or best feedback you've gotten for transforming like people that you've worked with transform themselves, but maybe we can kind of answer that through talking about what you really do with your like sister circles and
Mm.
retreats. And then I imagine at the end of that we can touch on some of the biggest transformations that you've seen from people.
Yeah. So we'll start the beach sessions I run, beach on the weekends. It was very much just like community driven. I want people to have high vibes on their Saturday morning, a space where we just be in stillness for a few minutes, connect, and jump in the ocean. Like it's very much high vibe for anyone, for everyone, all ages, very inclusive. Um, and then my retreats that I run with Ebony, they're very much on the transformative like section. Like it's obviously a full 2-3 days of just like doing the work and really also not just doing the work, but really connecting to who we are at our core and removing anything that doesn't serve us in our bodies. And that's just the space that we can really take people there for a few days. And then as well, one-on-one coaching, and that's very individual. Like you come to me with A, B, C, and I can help you with A, B, and C. And if I can't, then I just refer you to someone else. But that's a very much like a also transformative time. We do 4 to 6 week containers. For anyone that doesn't know what a container is, it's just like a different word for saying like 4 week course. But it's just a time that we have together, which is so beautiful. 4 weeks can change someone's life forever. Even just one session can.
Mm.
And then I do my sister circles, which are probably my favorite little sessions. And I will in the new year have men involved because they need to be involved because it's not just about the women. I do love their circles with just women, but we'll definitely bring the men in too. And I guess on even the last sister circle I had, like the comments that people share after is like, and I get text messages after saying like, wow, I finally feel a sense of life again. And my
Wow.
favorite quote that someone said to me after they like literally got out of their breathe, she's like, I feel like I've just taken my first breath. And
Wow.
she's like 20 something. And she's like, I feel like I've taken my first breath of my life. And I'm like, whew, whew.
Yeah. Wow.
And once you go there, there's no going back because you connect with something within you that maybe you never have before. And that's what breathwork did to me. I experienced something I never had before. And in these containers and in these circles, we really allow people to tap into that. And it's just connection, creating stillness in the body, creating safety in the body. And those three things are a recipe for so much change. Even this one lady was going through grief and pain, and she then said to me, I finally feel like I can smile again, and I finally feel like I can see and I can feel like I can have purpose and drive in my life again. Whereas 2 hours before, nah.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
it's so potent and it's so powerful. And it's why I love
Mm.
what I do because it's like an instant change. It's not like, people go to a psychologist for 10 weeks and they're still really not feeling that much different. yeah, we can do a breath work and connect and do this in 2 hours, and people's lives are and have changed within that period of time, and it's so instant.
Mm. You mentioned before, with your one-on-ones, people come to you with all this stuff, and then you can sort of like guide them, or if you can't guide them, you go and refer them somewhere else. I'm interested to know where's like your starting point with people. Like people come to you, you have your one-on-one. What's like your starting point? Do you have a starting point that you kind of do across the board, or is it just completely tailored to the person and what they're going through?
When you say starting point, do you mean like with how I
So like how
coach
do
it?
you yeah, like what's your approach to your one-on-one sessions, and when someone comes to you with stuff, pain or something to be healed, or something like this, where do you start yourself with coaching them?
Yeah. Um, well, I think I'm calling in the clients that I know I can, you know, support, and that's through like
Mm,
Instagram and stuff. Like a lot of people who come to me, the most common things are anxiety, self-love, stress. They just want a lifestyle reset, they want accountability, they just want to feel good. It's a very common like realm of
mm,
different things that people are coming for me. And we then just plan out what the next 4 to 6 weeks looks like for them. And we kind of start, and this is where it's like so individual, because some people just want breathwork and meditation sessions in their containers, and that's pretty much all we do. And a lot of times, other people want both, and then we just leave room for a lot of chatting, giving them practices to then do throughout their week, and then, yeah, sort of like that.
okay. And where do you I'm interested to know, like, you're doing everything you're doing now, but like do you have any sort of like vision where you want to take all of this, and any kind of goal in the next like 5 to 10 years, or like
Mm.
yeah, like, do you have that image in your head?
Yeah, I definitely want to take it like overseas and run like retreats overseas. I want to have my business flourishing online as well. So like have heaps more one-on-ones going so I can then travel and be anywhere and everywhere. Um, I also would love to teach breathwork in places across the world where I've currently visited and go, yeah, I definitely would love to teach here. I also would love to take this into, and I do this corporately as well, like run into corporate businesses, do staff trainings and stuff, and um, being offered like
uh,
uni workshops as well. Like I want this work to be reached to everyone in schools, running online courses. Yeah.
what's it like? I You said corporate, that kind of like piqued my interest. I'm interested to know, what's the difference really like? Is there a difference between corporate and non-corporate people that you're working with? Like, do you see any noticeable difference of the types of issues or things coming up, or
I think corporate just screams like stress.
yeah.
Corporate's very much like they are working fast paced, they are working heavy hours. They're people who have families, and then they go to their job, and then they have very little time for themselves. So for them, I think my intention is always just allowing them to slow down, allowing them to have some breathwork tools that will reduce feelings of stress or overwhelm or anxiousness, and then teaching them those tools so that they can have for life. And they're
Mm-hmm,
obviously a lot
mm-hmm.
older. Corporate people that I've been dealing with, they are a lot older. So whereas a lot of like my one-on-ones and my sessions and stuff, they're more in my generation, and then there's a few like mums and a few dads as well that do come in. So yeah,
Do
just
you
working with
do you
a bit
feel
of
like
everyone.
you're received any differently by older crowds?
What I've noticed is when someone comes to me, like say it's a boss, and they want me to come and run it with those people, I've noticed those people are less open because they're not actually coming to me, I'm coming to them. Whereas all
Mm.
the people that are coming to me, to my sessions for me and for what I do, they're so open. Doesn't mean the people that aren't open aren't willing to try it. It's just I know that their energy is a lot more guarded. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just
How
like
do you tell? How can you tell like how what are the telltale signs where you see this difference?
yeah, you can just tell like the eyes are the main thing. If someone's not looking at you, they're not engaged whatsoever. And you'll
Mm.
find sometimes, and this is just like normal as well, like we don't all need to be staring at that person in the face, but with their body language, they're obviously closed off. So like there's a lot of like crossed arms, like, you know, that's the number one sign is like if they're not open in their body language, then they're not open. But yeah, if they're not looking at you or sometimes they're gazing up and it's like, yeah, they probably have somewhere else to be. But I only really find that when
Mm.
it's like I've gone to this place because one person asked me to come and do it for all those people kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because I think that sometimes it would make me feel like it comes into that like imposter syndrome thing where I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
I'd be coming to like there's like 40, like 30, 40, 50, maybe 60-year-old people, and I, a little 25-year-old, will come up and like teach you guys something. It's like
Exactly. Yeah.
that would just be like such a like a bit of like a mind fuck, you know,
Yeah.
just like whoa, like
Yeah.
it's so hard to think like these people are gonna actually like listen to me or like
Mhm.
respect me because
Yeah.
there's such like a age thing is so real. But
Definitely.
yeah, do you feel that much?
100%. I get more nervous with older people because I'm like, again, why would a little girl, why would they want to listen to a young girl? And then obviously, like, I know I have so much value. And they're usually the ones that impacted the most because they've got 40 years or 30
Yeah.
years ahead of us, got a lot more shit they've gone through. And one little moment of that, or like what I've said or what I've got taken them through, is a lot. Like, it's huge for them. So, like, they're usually the ones that I'm most nervous for, but most of the time, the ones that I'm like getting so much feedback from.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine, especially being, um, especially you coming to them. So it's not something they're necessarily asking for. It's
Yeah.
just coming up in their life, and it could
Mhm.
really be like a massive like light bulb moment for them
Mhm.
or something like that. Do you going through all of this, like I'm just seeing the way your channel is and the way you've grown and your growth of your business. Have you, which is very impressive by the way, have you had like a mentor at all through any of this or any people that you sort of like looked up to or connect or contact and who have guided you or
Yeah, I started off with a coach at the very start of my business after I got out of my course. I just
Mhm.
wanted some simple business structure tools to start a business. So that was really necessary. Um, and then I'm always just like looking um, in the space of whoever, like what other people in the space are doing with their Instagrams, and then like that always helps as well. Um, and Cool to Be Conscious is who I did my course with, so they're a page that has done really, really well. So getting tools from like what they do as well also helps.
mm, mm. What about any times have you ever felt like disconnected or not understood by people around you because of like what you were doing and the job that you're doing now? Has that ever made you feel isolated from others?
Um, to be honest, no, because the people around me have always like I've never. I feel like stepping into this work, people have gone, well, wow, that makes sense. Like you're becoming more you, and
Mm,
this really suits what you're doing, and I couldn't see you doing anything else. So having that always in my ear has never made me feel small or isolated in what I'm doing. Definitely. Which I think I'm very grateful for the
nice.
people who see that in me too.
Yeah.
Because for a long time I
Yeah,
was
I think that could
also,
definitely be a big one for people going into like businesses or
yeah,
I think even like the podcasting, although I haven't really felt that isolated, I think, which is good, but I can imagine that there would be like a thing that comes up for people.
Mm.
But like, how do you go with asking people for help?
Mm. Something I never like, could do. And
I
that's
think
something
we're
I struggled to
disconnected.
always do. What's that? Are we disconnecting?
Yeah, like your camera's off.
Oh no.
Technical problems.
Hello. Were you back?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
back. We're
Okay.
back.
Oh, what
Um,
was the question again?
yes, I was asking, yeah, like how do you go about asking people for help?
Mm.
Do you find yourself, because I think that's a difficult thing, is to be able to go to people and actually like asking for help from them, and
Mm.
um, something that I think I'm fortunately actually like been pretty good at doing for myself. And I mean, it starts also coming up with like the podcast. Like I've got to go ask people and like
Mm.
put myself out there and be like, hey, I kind of need people. Like, do you
Mm.
want to be on it? And so yeah, how do you go with asking people for help and
Mm.
reaching out like that?
I think really good now. And in the past, I just didn't know really how to ask for help. But now I'm like, I will hustle for help. Like anyone that I've
Mm,
can see that they're where I want to be, or they've done what I want to do, or just lacking something and I need that, then I'm like, boom, let's chat. I want to know more. Tell me more. And I've got a lot of like people in the breathwork space that I've like met along the way in business and in what I do, that there is, I will always ask for help with them and vice versa. Like I don't have, I'm not afraid to seek that expertise if I don't have that within me too. So no, I feel very confident
mm.
asking for help now. Definitely.
And how do you ask for help? Like, I'm actually interested. Like, how do you approach it? How do you look at it? And yeah, I guess I want to know like, what do you actually do? Because you said at the start you didn't really know how, but now you know how. But like, how do you?
Well, I think in the past with like asking for help would be before I started all of this, and it would be more of like if I needed someone, like in terms of I'm not good, I didn't know how to ask for help. But I think now what I'm kind of talking about is in the business space, like if I need help setting this up, or if I don't really know what to say for this or whatever, I will literally I just have a lot, like a really, what's the word? I have a really just tight group of people that I know I can have support or take support from, um, and who have helped me with business and like how to set up, I don't know, emails or whatever. Like I just literally straight
Mm-hmm.
up, I love what you've done. I can see that what you've done is this, and this, whatever. And I want to get there. Can you please help me? Like just as simple as that. Tell me your
Yeah. Okay.
ways.
Nice. um, I want to go back a little bit to the sister circle stuff because I had a question about like what. Obviously, I've never been to one. So like, what's it like? What is a sister circle? All I've heard is like the name sister circle. I've seen it like posts or posters or something around wherever I'm at, and I always wonder like what actually is going on here because it would be an extremely different experience to anything I'm probably used to. So can you walk me through it?
Mm-hmm. It's 2 hours, and sorry, it is 2 hours, and we start off with connection. Connection is obviously one of the most important things that um, I run and do activities on in my classes, in my name, Pure Connections. But connection, and then in the sister circles, we do a lot of like vision goal setting. So, um, kind of manifesting, feeling into our goals and our dreams, sharing that with each other, feeling into how it feels to call that in. Then we do breath work, meditation, sound healing, and usually at the end we do like a bit of a sharing circle.
Mm, mm. What's when you're doing the sharing circle, like what's that like? Are you sharing about things you've enjoyed or things that have been difficult, or is it anything like?
Yeah, it's just open space, and usually everyone will just chat into something that feels good for them in that moment, whatever they feel called to share. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's really light and glowy, and sometimes it's, yeah, it it depends so like all the time, and like every
Mm,
session brings a different energy, and obviously the people who come bring different energy. So sometimes, yeah, it's just whatever that person's going through, and it's so powerful to be seen and heard and understood.
yeah, I don't know. I think it just lagged a little bit, but it's I think it's okay now. Sort of like two more or three more questions, I guess.
Mhm.
The first one is, um, like as a male, I want to know like what's the best way a man or like a male or like a male partner can support you as like a woman, and what do you think are like the most important things that maybe women in general need from the male counterpart, or just a male presence in general?
Mm. Yeah, that's a huge question, and I think that's a whole nother podcast in itself, to be honest. Because when we talk about masculine and feminine energies and how to really support your partner and be there for one another and all that, but I think most importantly, coming down to a woman needs to feel safe, a woman needs to feel seen, a woman needs to feel loved, a woman needs to feel supported. And if a man can't do those things, it's jarring for the woman's nervous system, and it's just not what we need. So I think holding your woman through the hardship, through the pain, through the love is what she needs, and to be seen and heard by you fully. So, and that goes with really any relationship, not even just a partner, but most importantly, in a partner, you want to feel seen, you want to feel loved, you want to feel held, you want to feel safe. If a woman can feel safe in your presence, that is really all she needs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if her nervous system doesn't feel safe, she's not going to feel open. She's not going to be able to tap into her femininity. She's not going to be able to be who she truly wants to be. So safety is like number one.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I think there's so much into that one.
Yeah, it's a
And then
it's a
like
jar of
obviously,
worms we could open there.
yeah, yeah. Well, we can save it for next time.
Yeah.
Um, what uh, what is? I want you to. So I got two questions left. This one is, what are three words that you would use to describe your life so far?
Mm. Like from now back 23 years ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Adventurous, inspiring, and love. And I think within those three words, there is everything in between, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one of those is most relevant right now for you?
I think adventurous. That's the first one that popped into my brain. I'm just like the biggest adventurer ever in terms of everything, like travel, in business, in life, in conversations. Like I just love that adventurous energy of exploring things and exploring life.
And what would you say to people who want to become more adventurous?
Mm. Be curious. If we're not curious, then we're not going to be open to exploring and to being free and to be adventurous. So I think be curious about life, be curious about who you are, be curious about what that person's doing over there, what he's doing, what she's doing, and what you want to do. And then be open
Mm,
too. I think being open and being curious is two of the most important values to me, and what I would, yeah, invite people to feel into.
nice. This kind of ties into my final question, um, which like that could even be your answer. But my final question is that I want you to imagine that we have a million people listening to this podcast right now. So there's 1 million people right now listening, and what are you telling these 1 million people with your words right now?
There's a million people. What am I telling them? Okay, obviously on the back of that, be open, be curious. But I think number one for me, and it would be the advice that I would give to myself when I was going through it is, and we've mentioned it before in this potty, but trust. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Trust yourself. Trust the process you're in at the moment. Trust that you will get through it all. And also as well, be yourself. No one is you, and that is your power. Bring more of you into the world. Be your authentic self and just watch what will unfold for you. Be you.
Awesome. That's so nice. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sophie. It's been great to have you.
Thanks, Nate. What a great chat. We could have kept going for hours then, I reckon.
Yeah, I know. I feel like there's like just some things here I think we could have gone for like way longer, but I know we got a bit of time and everyone's busy. So
we'll save it for the
thank you
next
so
one.
much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks so much.